I say it tears.
Squeaky clean! Oh, that was just a bad dream. Oh well, at least it's over now. I mean, why would I wake up to a reality where the sequel to a game I didn't like came out, and then I voluntarily played that game for 8 hours straight at a ludicrous time of day, while also signing up 2 of my brothers to do the same to combine our playtime into a 24-hour stream? Why would anyone do that? Man, this line is insane. I left and came back, and even after 8 hours, we still haven't moved. Andy left the line, and I bet by the time he comes back, we still will not have moved. This is asinine. It's a sign. Maybe I hyped this up a little too much. Well, might as well waste some time while Andy's off playing Tears of the Kingdom for 8 hours straight. How about my first impressions about the game? That sounds fun, doesn't it? Prepare for more Zelda, other people in line. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out May 12th, 2023, and is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, which we reviewed last week. The open-world adventure game got a little more open, a little more world, and a little more game, and here are my first impressions during the 8 hours I got to sit and play it. Regarding the Great Plateau equivalent, which I will call the Great Platform for now, is essentially the tutorial to give you very few of the tools you need to take on Tears of the Kingdom. Oh, you heard tutorial, and very little of the tools you need? That's right, like the worst tutorials ever made, the Great Platform will wear on your patience in more than one way. Instead of giving you 4 shrines to do in any order, you must attend to a temple, realize it won't open, do 2, do a 3rd, realize that isn't enough, and then do a 4th. Fuck that process. I can't believe I have to give Breath of the Wild any credit in this situation, but at least the Great Plateau let you have 4 Spirit Orbs, all 4 runes, and all 4 challenges in any order. And, spoilers incoming I suppose, when you completed them you could choose when and what to spend your 4 Spirit Orbs on. Here, your choice is relinquished, and you are only handed the option of a heart container. Why? Because the door you need to open pulls a Master Sword on you, and you need a certain number of hearts to open it. Remember when no one liked doing that in Breath of the Wild and most people simply skipped it because of the tremendous time investment involved? Good memory, honestly. Nice job. The back and forth is awful, the guide character jerks you around with what he does and doesn't know, and it lasts entirely too long to give you so little in the end. You don't even end up with the paraglider, which, in a game about going back and forth to the sky and land, seems like a pretty important piece of equipment to just not have when diving miles to the ground. You only have the option of getting the paraglider after the open world opens up, and you can choose to follow the marker, or the hundreds of thousands of other things you can do. You can miss the paraglider. Ridiculous. On your journey to do whatever the game tells you, or any of the other fun things you can do, you'll encounter weapons. Weapons galore. You can't hold any of them because your inventory is too small again. Prepare to locate and groan your way through helping hundreds of Koroks and aggressively hunting down Hestu again to have even a modicum of a chance to hold anything good. Anyway, weapons. All of them suck. Every weapon has decayed, and the only way to make anything worth a damn is by stapling other things to them. Rocks, barrels, explosive stuff, other weapons. You can increase most weapons' attack and none of their durability by doing this. This can lead to some interesting results, such as a double-length spear, an explosive barrel-toting sword, or a rock-stuck boomerang. These things are more hilarious than effective, which means fights with even red enemies, usually the weakest, or wars of attrition instead of measures of your combat skills. In fact, the whole game feels like a war of attrition now. Just as the Blight refights in Breath of the Wild only gave you certain materials to fight, making each fight resource-centric where you can only hope that you don't break every weapon before making meaningful progress. Same deal here. Really not a fan of it. Finally, the runes, or the rune replacements. Instead of Cryonis, Magnesis, Stasis, and the rest, you have sticking things to other things, swimming through the ground directly above you, fusing things in a different way, and rewinding objects' movement. Also, the map is counted as a rune in your rune wheel, which makes no sense. Why are there 2 different sticking things to things runes? You can use both runes on the same objects and materials. The only real difference is the fact one moves shit, and the other allows you to stick things to your swords or shields, provided you don't already have things stuck to them. It's a needlessly complicated system separated only by a button press. Also, the object sticky rune only allows you to stick things to other things at certain points and certain angles. Prepare to attach things to things several times as the game assumes your angles and sticky points. It's the best. This is a new complicated system split into 2 runes for absolutely no reason. Why? Overall, Tears of the Kingdom is more Breath of the Wild. If you enjoy open world games, then this is yet another Zelda game gone generic that you will enjoy. While my first impressions may sound sour, it is because I'm not a fan of open world games and the mechanics therein. I wish I was, but I'm not. There are many out there who do enjoy this genre, and I hope they feel the kind of joy and excitement I will when Zelda finally goes back to the way I know and love the series after it's done with this whole open world stint.
Hey, why'd you start this without me? I wasn't playing the game for 8 hours. I stepped away to go to the bathroom. And now that James has talked at you for the last several minutes, I believe it's my turn to do that. So here are my first impressions of Tears of the Kingdom. As I'm continuing to play, this really does feel mostly like more of Breath of the Wild. It's very strange to actually feel my brain access a previously dormant section of itself, the hundreds of hours I played Breath of the Wild a few years ago, and then layer more on top. In Tears of the Kingdom, I'm seeing similar situations in the world and level design as there were in Breath of the Wild, but I have different solutions to them, what with the lack of stasis and the boosted magnesis in the form of Ultra Hand. But I'm also being fed tools in a much different manner than the Great Plateau, and I think that makes things feel a bit less friendly. Although we poo-poo Breath of the Wild around here, we can at least agree it did a few things correctly. Letting the player learn the ropes on the isolated Great Plateau and making sure they had everything they needed to beat the game before leaving it was a good decision. The sequel, though, has the Garden of Time, a very unfriendly frenzy of elevations and pathways, and upon leaving that space, you still don't have everything you need. I'm probably going to end up remembering the Garden of Time portion the same way I remember the first week of Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm glad I never have to do that again. Anyway, speaking of Breath of the Wild successes that Tears of the Kingdom seem to muck up, bombs are no longer an infinite rune you can use whenever you want, but a resource you have to find and hoard. I guess it feeds into the fusing stuff, allowing you to fuse bombs to your arrows or whatever, but it does now mean you can run out of weapons, shields, bows, arrows, and bombs, and officially have no means of dealing damage to enemies or solving certain shrine puzzles. Having infinite bombs was always the defense I saw whenever the weapon durability system was criticized, and I did my best to agree. So what now? Oh yeah, I mentioned the runes. I like using the Ultra Hand, it's just magnesis but expanded to every physics object, but wiping snot on objects to make bigger objects really requires a better camera system. Making a car or a boat is a small ask in things like Besiege or World of Contraptions, but in Tears of the Kingdom, you have to contend with physics, Link himself, and the camera only being able to move in certain ways without inducing motion sickness. And speaking of Ultra Hand, I am done with Koroks forever. They've officially asked too much of me. These Captain Toad cosplayers are just escort missions in disguise, except they have the gall to occasionally position themselves on dangerous precipices or next to bodies of water with their goal on the other end. And I'm not supposed to attempt to kill this little sapsack? I'm instead supposed to keep it safe and help it get to its friend? I refuse. Moving on from Ultra Hand, I have one thing to say about Fuse. This menu to merge stuff to your arrows. Are you serious? I don't think I need to elaborate. And as for the time reversing stuff and Ascend, well, the time reverse seems to only be for these rocks to send you back into the sky, and I mostly ignore them. Honestly, I seem to have completely forgotten about the sky stuff. It just kind of blends into the clouds. In fact, the best part of the game for me so far is the caves. I love just jumping into wells like an idiot. I think the giant gaping Minecraft-esque cave openings are so cool. These remind me of other Zelda games, walking up to a cave and it's full of danger and intrigue. And if it's too dangerous or you just feel like it, you can use Ascend and hop out of there. It's a bone-rattling thrill with a warm safety net. To be frank, the best parts of me playing Tears of the Kingdom are when I intentionally ignore things that make me upset about it. If I just straight up don't do the Koroks, I have more fun doing other things without interruption. But then, of course, since this is an open world game with all these systems layered on top of each other, that means I'm missing out on things I'll need later, and I'll be kicking myself for it. Maybe this is how Zelda is supposed to be played now, having a small bubble of fun and feeling guilty for it later. It's like having a dirty little secret, or eating Taco Bell.
Wow, another several minutes of Zelda conversation at no one. We must be good at this. Well, we hope you enjoyed these several minutes of our first impressions of Tears of the Kingdom. Be sure to check back here next week for another video themed like a Tales of series skit. Alright, I gotta blink and let the screen go black so you guys can see other things to click on. There we go. Alright, follow us for more.
Tears.